Good morning and welcome to Sunday School at Home. It has been a really long time since I've seen you all. Today I have Logan helping me, and we're going to talk about David from the Bible. And Pastor Dean and Pastor Ron have been talking about David in the regular church services too. There is a lot about David in the Old Testament. So, I have some things sitting on the table here, Logan, and by looking at these different props, what can you tell me that you know about David?
I think the sheep remind me that he was a shepherd.
Okay, he was a shepherd. And what did shepherds do?
They herd the sheep.
Okay, they watch over them. They usually would have a staff, and they would protect them and from wild animals and things like that. And then this is some music. So what does that remind you of? That's sheet music.
I think it reminds me that he was a music composer a
Okay.
little bit and a poem writer.
Yeah, he did. He wrote poems, and that's what the book of Psalms is basically. And he had an instrument that he played, and it looked a little bit like a little harp, I think. A small harp. And then the thing that we really think about when we think about David is what?
That he killed the Goliath.
He killed Goliath.
With,
and he killed him with
the slingshot.
a slingshot, which is pretty amazing because Goliath was what?
He was huge.
He was gigantic. He was a giant. He was way bigger than normal people in that time. So let's read about David. And this is not straight from the Bible. This is written in words that tells the story of David and Goliath in a very easy to understand way. So it's taken from 1 Samuel, verse 17 in the Bible. Well, God's people had some scary enemies, but the Philistines were the scariest of them all. And now the Philistines had come to fight them. And their secret weapon was called Goliath. And he was a terrifying soldier, and worst of all, he was a giant. A giant so strong and so tall and so scary that no one had ever been able to fight him and live. So there they were. The Philistines were standing on top of one hill. God's people were standing on top of the other, and every single day Goliath came out and shouted, "Send your best soldier to fight me. If he wins, we will be your slaves. But if I win, you will be our slaves." Well, nobody said anything. They were all just standing there shaking in fear. And so Goliath started making fun of them and calling them chickens. And worst of all, he said, "Your God can't save you. He can't do a thing." His beady, greedy eyes glowered at them hungrily from under his horrible helmet, as if any minute he might really gobble them all up. And he laughed a terrible laugh, and it boomed and echoed horribly around and around the valley. Well, Goliath might as well have been a green, slimy monster with 3 heads, because God's people froze with fear. And sometimes we freeze with fear too, about things in our lives, because we forget who we have on our side. But David didn't forget. But these people, their eyes glazed over and they turned pale, and they just didn't think there was anything that could save them. But they were wrong. God would do something. He would send someone to save them. So what do you think, Logan? Is there going to be another giant on Israel's side?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, you would think logically that he would send someone big like Goliath to fight him, but no. Now David was the youngest son of Jesse, and his big brothers, were soldiers in the army. One day when David brought his brothers their lunches, he saw what was going on. He saw Goliath, and he saw how scared everybody was. And David was amazed. He said, "Well, but our God is on our side. Why are you so frightened? I'll fight Goliath for you. Well, his brothers thought that was a joke. He said, you're a little shepherd boy. You can't do that. But David said, I can. And do you know why I can? Because God is on my side and he's going to help me. So the king said, okay. And he gave his armor for him to wear, a big shield, a giant spear. Well, David couldn't carry all that. And he said, I don't even need this. Instead, David picked up 5 smooth stones, put them in his little bag. He took his slingshot and walked toward Goliath. Step, step, step. And then Goliath started walking towards him, but the noise he made was thud, 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 shaking the ground. You? Well, Goliath thought it was a big joke. He looked down at the small boy and he made fun of him. But David said, yeah, I know, I'm little, but I have a God who is great. Well, Goliath wasn't very impressed by that at all. He just started laughing at him. But he thought to himself, you know, I just have to swing my giant sword one time and David's done for. But David kept going and said, you know what? Not how strong you are or how many swords or spears you have that will save you. It is God. This is God's battle, and God always wins his battles. Well, that's what we have to remember too. No matter how scary or fearful something might be to us, we have a big God who's behind us. And it's God's battle, not ours. So David put his hand in his bag and he picked out just the right stone, put it in his sling, swung it around and let go. And that little stone flew like a bullet through the air and it struck Goliath right between the eyes. Well, Goliath stopped laughing pretty quick. And he stumbled and he staggered and crash. He fell down. He was gone. Well, when the Philistines saw Goliath was dead, they ran away. And when God's people saw them running, they cheered. God had saved his people. And then David was a hero. But really, it was David's faith that defeated Goliath. Many years later, God would send his people another young hero to fight for them and to save them. And this hero would fight the greatest battle the world had ever known. And he would fight that battle by dying on a cross. And that was who?
Jesus.
That was Jesus. So, but David defeated a very fearsome, scary enemy by trusting in God. And sometimes we forget to do that because we do have God on our side. So what we have to remember is to be like David and not trust in how strong or brave we are, but how much power our God has, the God that we serve and that loves us. So today, I want you to remember to be brave like David was by trusting in God in all things. So it was fun to be here today. I hope you have a great Sunday with your family the rest of the day, and we will see you again next week. Happy Sunday.
Goodbye.
Bye.